Hey guys, welcome to another fabulous episode with Lindsay and Kelsey. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. It is getting closer to, I don't know, resting season, hibernation season. So we felt really inspired to talk on this topic. And it really is just about how to let yourself kind of go inward, how to let yourself retreat for the season, how to let yourself relax, and how to really just feel good about it. Because I know I need to say a lot of things today that I know to be true and just kind of remind myself. And I also need to hear some things that I know to be true that I just forgot about. So that's why I have my lovely friend Kelsey here today. Hopefully, we can speak on some things that will really hit home with you and make you feel good about it too. Hey, Kels.
Hey, yeah, we wanted to do this solo episode on relaxing, letting yourself relax, giving yourself permission to relax, because it's something that both Lindsay and I personally struggle with. And I don't think there's like a 12-step formula to relaxation, which I think is like kind of funny because we want the steps, right? We want the tools, we want the knowledge, like give me the step by step, how do I do it? But it's kind
Yeah.
of something that you just have to do. Like you do it or you don't
Yeah.
do it. There's no like steps, there's no how to. So we're just going to be exploring this topic today because I feel that it would be super beneficial if we would all let ourselves off the hook a little bit more. And I think we could
Right.
start by exploring why we don't, because that's what's holding us back here.
Why we don't. Well, and I'm glad you brought this up because the first thing that I think of when I get that little idea of like, oh, I should really just take some time out. The first thing is like, well, but if you do, then you're going to lose all this momentum and you should be doing this. The dishes are piled up, the laundry is like 3 hampers deep right now. And there's just so many, like, the biggest obstacle is not relaxing. The biggest obstacle is not thinking about all the things that I should be doing, or, heavy quotes there, should be doing while I'm relaxing. And if you can't, this is my biggest thing. If you can't let yourself enjoy your time out and really get all you can out of it, it doesn't count. And so you're still, after that window of time that you've let yourself kind of not do anything, you're kicking yourself even harder because you didn't make the most of it. And so I think, I don't know about you, but the biggest thing for me is I don't really let myself because there's so much I feel like I need to be doing first. And then the relaxation is like a reward for that, you
Yeah,
know?
I'm in a similar camp of like if I don't feel relaxed while I'm doing nothing, then it's not like
Right.
counting as relaxation, right? Like if I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to
It doesn't
rest,
count.
I'm going to watch a show, I'm going to do nothing, I'm just going to lay here. Then like what about
Yeah.
all the other stuff that's in the back of my mind that's just worrying me or stressing me out or on the never ending to-do list? It's like, okay, I'm sitting there just worrying about what needs to get done. I'm not actually in this moment present relaxing. But I think some of the most present moments that I've been able to embrace were after just like being with whatever was happening for me, like emotionally. So once I just dove into that, let it come up, observed it, whatever needed to happen in that moment, then what was left on the other side of that feeling was just presence. And I'd be like, oh,
Yeah.
I noticed that I'm just sitting here, I'm feeling more relaxed. I'm noticing the plants in my office. I'm noticing how nice it is outside. I'm breathing better now. And I'm just like so present. And I reach these states a lot when I do sessions with my coach. And I just am like, do other people feel like this all the time? Which I don't think they do.
Well,
But I just know like I can tend to be more on the anxious spectrum than some people.
yeah.
So then I judge myself of like, oh, probably everyone else always feels this relaxed and this present. And I never do unless I like go deep in these sessions and get to the other side. So yeah, maybe
Well,
that's something people can relate with too.
yeah. And I think for you and I, those that are on a little more of the anxious side, it, like, for me, it happens when I'm supposed to be sleeping. Like, for me, if I don't feel like it's productive, I can't sit with it. That's the biggest struggle for me. So how do I make sleep seem productive? How do I make rest seem productive? How do I make doing my favorite hobby seem productive when there are so many things that are still like on the to-do list? And I found myself I'll wake up in the middle of the night and be like, find the weirdest stuff that I haven't really thought about to be like, oh, now's the time to think about it and really ruminate on it and, try to figure it out and problem solve at 3 a.m. And I have to like talk myself down. Lindsay, this is not the time. There is time to worry about this, but it's not right now. And that usually helps me kind of detach from it a little bit. But yeah, man, it's hard. It really is. And so like I said, my biggest challenge is finding productivity in rest, which I'm pretty sure is the title of one of our episodes already. I'm not sure.
Well,
Something like that.
we talked about it, and I think the episode about giving yourself permission to rest, because you actually can't be productive without the breaks, without the recharge,
Right.
without the rest. It's a part of the equation for productivity. It might not be the productive moment where things are moving forward, but it's the recharge where
Yeah.
you are creating space for the productivity to happen later or in the future or alongside whatever's happening. But what I want to explore is like, I think a lot of other people out there are probably in the same boat of like, well, if it's not productive, then it's not worth doing. But like, why does everything have to be productive? Like, what's the importance of productivity, you know?
Yeah. Well, the importance of productivity initially what comes to mind is, well, that means I'll hit the mark, I'll get my goals, and then I'll be able to move on to the next. I'm the worst waiter. I can't wait for stuff. Like I really need my life lesson in this lifetime, I think, is to be more patient because I really struggle with that.
Don't
And
we all?
don't we all, right? And so when I know what I want, like they say the hard part is like knowing what you want. That's not the hard part for me. That's like waiting for what you want is the hardest part. And so when I feel like I'm not productive, it's like, well, I'm just extending my wait. I'm just making myself wait longer for whatever it is I want. And that's hard. And it's not hard every day, but now in this, when it right after Halloween, sometimes before, in October, November, December, until the new year, basically, I'm just I'm just retreating. I'm just like, I see people and I love this. Some people like around now will take like a 2 month social media hiatus just for the holidays to spend time with their family and just not be on. And I really do love that. But they also have teams that post for them. And I have never had anybody post for me. I just don't. So there's always that excuse of like, well, I can't do that. So I take it out in other ways, which is just like, I don't feel like doing anything today at all. And again, another problem is like, sure, take time out. It helps your momentum forward because it feeds that like that need that you have. And so of course it's going to help you in the long run. But how much rest is too much rest, Kelsey? That's where I'm like, I don't want to stop resting. And so I'm afraid that like I'll just keep resting and resting. And then before I know it, it's everything I've built is like crumbling, but I know that's being dramatic. Of course it won't, but it's just that's the struggle. It's like too much rest. Where is that line? And like how close can I get to it before before I just jump over?
Yeah, I mean, that fear makes sense because I see like a lot of my clients have this fear, but it shows up with like different wording, right? Like, oh, if I let myself be sad, then I'll get stuck and I'll be sad forever. Or I'll go into a long
Yeah,
depression. Or if I let myself get mad, I'll just be so heated and I'll never be able to come down from that. And I won't be able to like
right.
calm down after. And I think we have to prove it to ourselves that like that actually won't happen. But the only way we can prove it to ourselves is by trying it. You know,
Oh,
because we can only speculate so much with like, you can't know from speculating. You can only know from like
mm-hmm.
doing it, you know? Because I
And it,
think, and I like from my personal experience, is that like when I rest, I always find inspiration really quickly,
mm-hmm,
like quicker than I think. And then I'm like, oh, I got to get back to this. I'm going to start on this. I'm going to do this, blah, blah, blah.
mm-hmm.
And it kind of is like it's like a little roller coaster. Like you take that little dip in the rest and then it brings you momentum to go back up, and then you dip, and then you up, and then you dip, and then you're up. And for me, that's how it
Yeah.
feels. But
And I think that would probably be true for me too. And I think I'm trying to like cut corners even in my rest because as much as I say like, oh yeah, you have to enjoy the rest, I definitely believe that. I also know that it's been it's been one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my entire life, like really hard. And
well,
it does.
there's so much pressure. You're like, I have to rest perfect. I have to be so relaxed when I rest. I have to rest for the right amount of time, not the wrong amount of time. I have to
Well,
rest for this, that, and this.
I don't know if it's like perfect, but it definitely feels like I have to make the most of it because I
I-
know how it feels when I don't. I
okay.
know that feeling. And so what, that's the struggle. But I will say one of the biggest things that helps is when I tell my husband this and he's like, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do, when he says it to me, I feel so much better versus like when I say it to myself. Cause it's just nice. Cause I know if he's saying it, that means he's going to do his best to pick up the where I'm slacking,
Mhm.
if that's the right word. If he says you don't have to do anything, just go, please do nothing. Like he'll say that to me because he knows like I drive myself a little crazy when it comes to productivity. And so he's just like, just go do nothing. Go do nothing. Play a video game. Go do a puzzle. I don't care. Go knit. And then so I know like, well, if dishes need to be done, he's not going to be asking me to do them. He's going to do them, which is very nice. And I know a lot of us don't have that. So I am very fortunate, but it's still really hard for me to give myself permission to kind of do nothing, because if I do nothing, what am I missing? What's going to happen? And that just goes back to probably trauma. Like if I stop paying attention to all the things, something bad's going to happen. Which maybe a lot of people can relate to as well. I think I've heard a lot of my clients expressing something similar to that, which is like if I let my guard down, a disaster in whatever form that might be. So that, there's a lot riding on it, but there isn't, but we let ourselves think there is.
Yeah, because that's the anxiety convincing you that
Mm.
that is the reality when it's not the reality. Anxiety is so sneaky. It'll be like, I'm you, I'm the truth, I'm yourself. But really, it's just anxiety. And it
See, I'm wearing
manifests
the
in
same sweater.
so many ways, so many
Yeah.
sneaky little ways. So, yeah, I mean, I get it. I definitely get it.
What's your biggest challenge with resting?
Um, Biggest challenge with resting. I guess sometimes I have trouble trusting or remembering that like things get done even if I don't do them all right away by myself. Because
That's a
I know how
good
to
one.
produce results through action really easy, really fast. Like
Yeah.
that's a dependable source for me. And I know how to produce results through manifestation too, but to an extent that's like action, right? Like doing my journaling,
Right.
doing my meditations, doing
You
my
can't
energy
just
work,
you
doing
can't
the
you
healing.
can't just want it. There's some action that needs to be taken with it. Yeah.
So, like, yeah, especially just recently in like the situation in my house and like how Jeff and I have been supporting each other, like I've been taking a lot of action and doing a lot of work when probably I don't need to do as much as I'm doing, but in a form it's like self-love to overdo because it helps soothe like the anxiety of you're not doing enough. But
Yeah.
then
It
also from another perspective, it could be like, you don't need to do that. You should just like hug your anxiety instead of
right.
taking the action from the anxiety, you know?
Yeah, I use reward as for almost all my motivation. It's like the carrot at the end of the stick. So what is the carrot today? The carrot is I get to sit on the couch for 10 minutes or 20 or 30 and do nothing and silence, because usually there's noise in my house. There's tons of noise. And so if it's during the day when I'm supposed to be working, for example, I know it's going to be quiet downstairs. So if I get enough done now, I can go sit in the quiet and just be in the silence. And that's the carrot. Some days the carrot is like, well, I'm not going to get a cup of coffee until I do these dishes. So like, I'm very reward based, but when the reward is resting or I mean like, when the reward is just being, when there is no carrot, that's hard for me. The
Mhm.
carrot is the rest, and I don't have to do anything necessarily to get that. And that's the disconnect for me. And that's what I need to work on is like you don't have to get a certain amount done because just as you said, I love this. This is one of those things I said that I need to be reminded of that I know are true, that I used to say all the time. But for some reason in the winter it doesn't work. But which is just like it's going to get done. Everything's going to get done. You don't have to do it right now. It's going to get done. And that feels really good because we worry,
Mhm.
I worry that I have to do it all now. And that's just, Not good. It just really makes me more anxious than anything.
Yeah, and it's helpful for everyone listening to really like take in this piece of information and remember that humans, us people as humans, are really motivated by avoiding pain. That's like motivates
Yeah.
90% of our actions, or gaining pleasure, like Lindsay said. But pretty much 90% of the time it's avoiding potential
Mm-hmm.
pain or a perceived threat. So if you can get
That's
down to
true.
the bottom of what you're truly afraid of, what bad things you think might happen, then you can work with that resistance and soothe that anxiety and love the parts of you that feel that way, feel those ways. And through that, and through being uncomfortable with doing something new, which might be resting longer than you would, or giving yourself permission to take a break, or relaxing, then you show yourself that you didn't die, nothing bad happened. Actually, you're feeling better now. You're feeling more inspired. You're feeling more motivated. It's only helping your life in every way. And you're like, oh, I was so scared. And I love the parts of me that were scared because that means they care about me and they don't want bad things to happen to me, which is awesome. But also, we don't need that strategy anymore. We don't
Yeah.
have to let that fear stop us from doing things that are actually really beneficial for us and, in fact, needed. Because then you get into the spiral of like, I can't let myself relax, doing. And then it becomes like more and more prominent. And it has so much momentum where it's like really hard to do anything other than that. It just keeps like spiraling and gaining
Mm-hmm.
more and more and more. So then you got to slow down the train before you stop the train and make the train go in the other direction, because you can't just be full throttle, like in this cycle of not
Yeah.
relaxing, then be like, today's the day I'm going to relax all day. Like, usually doesn't
This
work
is what that
like
looks
that.
like. It just looks like this. Crazy. Vibrating in the corner because you're so anxious. Like that's what
Mhm.
that looks like. You might not be moving. This doesn't mean you're not doing anything. Um, I want to talk about how we can recognize that we need to rest versus I just don't want to do this thing, so I'm going to procrastinate on it, whatever. How do we know that rest is actually what we need? Let's talk about that.
Hmm.
Because I feel like there's a lot of listeners like, well, but should I be resting or am I just like scared to do this thing or I don't want to do this thing? What are your thoughts on procrastination, by the way? Because I've heard a few different theories that I actually really like.
I think a lot of times when we're procrastinating, it's just because we're not actually excited and that's not in our highest excitement to do it. And it's not to say that every single thing needs to be your highest excitement. Cause, like, for example, for me, writing a book, really exciting. Editing the book at the last session, once I've already been through it 1,000 times, not fucking exciting. I will procrastinate that till the last day, like I did today. I'm submitting my final edits today on the day because that part's really fucking boring to me, even though generally writing books is in my highest excitement. So I think I know for me, I definitely procrastinate when it's just not exciting.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. People have all kinds of crazy theories about that, but I think it's just simple. Like you're just not doing it because you're not excited to do it and you don't want to do it. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Like it might be important, it might be
Right.
helpful, but it means you probably don't want to do it. Because I know when I'm excited to do something, I'll just dive right into it. Easy peasy.
And then you looking forward to it. But if you're procrastinating on it and you just like schoolwork, of course you're gonna have to do that. That's something. But if it's something like let me think. Something that isn't necessarily in your highest good, but you just said yes to it because you're a yes person, like you just say yes too much. That is another thing. Like maybe you should just learn to say no. Like you don't have to do everything that you don't want to do, but there are of course things that you have to do. So if you're procrastinating, the theory that I mentioned was something new that I heard, which was from Abraham Hicks. And I don't know how you feel about Abraham Hicks, but they were just like, if you're procrastinating, it's not a vibrational match. So don't do it. And I'm just like, okay, well, I'm sure there are some examples where that's true, but you can't just not do everything that you don't want to do. You just can't. I don't think
Right.
that I don't want to do half the crap I have to do, but
Well,
I
I
do
think
it because I have a job to do.
Right. I think what I said is like a more gentle, realistic version
It
of
is.
what they said.
Yes. Yes.
Plus, I love
So,
Abraham with all my heart, but like
yeah.
Abraham, this being, this entity is not a physical person in 3D human form living a human life. So they're all about
So
energy and like best case
idealistic.
scenario of
Mhm.
everything. But like, are you in a body? No. So you don't get to tell me
And
how it
they'll
is here.
even say like, yeah, and they'll even say like, we've never been a human. We just
They're on a
observe
different
you.
dimension. That's
Yeah.
cool. It's good to
It's
explore all
great.
the different dimensions,
That's
but
awesome.
they ain't here. They ain't doing this shit. They don't know what's up. They don't know what's going on down here in the 3D. So
You
yeah,
gotta figure this
it's a
out.
little different. But what was your first question before the procrastination?
Well, yeah. So with procrastination, with that whole aspect tied in, how do we know that it's okay and safe to rest? How do we know that we need that versus like just power through? Is there ever a situation where you should just power through?
I
Maybe if you're
think
editing a book.
I think there's not like an always and never answer really for anything because life is so complicated. But
Yeah.
generally speaking, when you're tired, that's your signal that you need rest.
Tired physically?
Physically, mentally, emotionally. If you're tired, that means you need rest. Easy to determine. Oh, I'm tired. I should probably rest. I'm tired. That
Or
means I need
yeah,
rest.
and sometimes that looks like overwhelmed. Sometimes that looks
Mhm.
like, when you know what they say, like when you feel so frustrated with something that's not going your way, or you just can't figure it out, you can't detangle it, get up and walk away from it. That can be a form of rest because you're resting from that situation. And then when you come back with fresh eyes, you might see something you didn't see before. I agree. I think that with the spectrum of life experiences, there's no way to say like, well, this is when you should just power through and this is when you should rest always. And so it's gonna, like everything we talk about on the show, it's gonna take a little bit of like figuring out your meter. What does this mean for me? What does this mean for me? And that's really all we talk about, honestly, on the show. So that's just another great reason to do that, to really get to know yourself and feel into like, does my mind, do my emotions, does my body really need rest right now? And if so, gosh, having the courage, it really does come down to courage and self nurturing to be able to give that to yourself fully, instead of what I do sometimes, which is like, I'm going to rest, but I'm going to think about all the things I have to do first. It's very easy to do. It's really hard not to do it. And so if you're choosing to rest, like, you're doing the courageous thing. How do we turn those thoughts off?
You don't.
Distraction.
I don't think thoughts are meant to
Distraction.
be turned off. I just think thoughts are meant to be sifted through with wisdom and discernment. Is this a thought that's true?
Right. But Kels,
Is
I
this
don't
a
want to
thought that
spend
I
my
need?
resting time like dissecting why I'm feeling that. I know why. Like, it's just like I can dissect all day. I know why. I know why all the way down to the core. But does it stop? Not necessarily, because that fear is so much bigger than my belief in rest.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
fear is bigger than the belief in rest. And so I need, I would love to be able to blow that belief in rest, this is the thing. This is why we say like nothing is ever one and done. You can't just figure something out and then expect it to be fine for the rest of your life, because there was a moment in my life where I was like so sure and I rested so well and I was so good at it. But things happen, you forget, you go through life, and things need to be reminded and reintegrated. And this is one of those things for me that needs to be reintegrated, which is just, it's going to get done. You are creating momentum by doing what you need to do right now, which is rest. And that, it's different every time. Sometimes I might need to tell myself that. Sometimes I might not. It's going to be like that for the rest of my life. So you just better get comfortable with it.
Maybe. Maybe. Maybe
Or
not.
what do you mean?
I mean, I just feel like you don't have to doom yourself to settling for like how you are for the rest of your life.
Well,
Like, this is how
no,
it's going to
but
be for the rest of my life because I'm always going to be like this. And, it just feels so defeated.
it does, but it also feels a little freeing in that like I'm not expected to have it all figured out. If
Yeah.
I do,
Acceptance
wonderful. Yeah,
is
acceptance. Yeah, yeah,
helpful.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, when I say that, it doesn't feel as if like, oh, I'm just gonna suck for the rest of my life. But it just feels like, you know what? I'm never going to have, I might not ever have the pieces of the puzzle. I might be figuring myself out till the day I die. I really think that's what's going to happen because I don't feel like we're ever quite done, but I don't have to suffer through it either. I can just feel good about it because we're
So
always changing
it's
and evolving.
kind of like an energy of we are where we are, and that's okay.
It's totally okay.
Yeah.
Now ask me again in a half an hour and I might be like, it's not okay.
It's not okay. And it's okay if you feel like it's not okay too. It's like
That's true.
making these moments of distress or uncomfortability okay is what is really helps you to relax.
You know what hurts? What hurts more in these situations than thinking about all the stuff I need to do is feeling bad about not doing the stuff I need to do. So that I think is an important distinction that you just said, Kelsey. Is like making it okay. Like, yeah, I didn't get this stuff done. I might not get it done today or tomorrow, but you know what? I feel really good right now. So we'll see how it goes. Like that feels so much better than like, oh, these things are going to be here tomorrow. What else do I have to worry about? Blah, 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 which is
Yes.
usually where our instincts take us.
And that's what I mean by sifting and choosing your thoughts. Like you're going to have both thoughts in your mind. Which one feels better in the body? Which one supports you more in the moment? And how can you just ride that wave instead of other one? You can't ride them both necessarily at the same time.
So this will be fun. What do you say to yourself when you find it hard to relax? What can we give people like, and you're going to find your own things, listeners. You're going to find your own mantras or like reminders, but we can give you some of our favorites
Yeah,
that
this is
have helped us in the past.
a good game. So if I'm wanting to relax, but I can't find relaxation, I just say, it's okay. It's okay that I feel not relaxed. I can have anxiety sometimes. That's fine. Doesn't mean anything bad about me. Doesn't mean anything bad about my life. I'm experiencing an anxious moment. And then usually I'll just breathe and I go through it and then I feel relaxed after. Like my whole approach is always going through. I don't
Mm,
try to go around. I don't try to run away. I don't try to skip steps anymore because it doesn't fucking work. Like what
yeah.
I found that works is just going through it, embracing wherever you are, embracing the experience that's coming through. And on the other side is always more presence, more depth, more
Mm-hmm.
groundedness for me in my experience and like working with my clients, which is why I try to provide like a space holding to guide people through their own self, through their own experiences. Because on the other side is that freedom, is that presence, is that calm, is that relief, is that relaxation. So I usually just embrace where I am. And that is what helps me personally. So I'll tell myself things like, you know, it's okay that I feel like this. I don't have to relax right now. Um, I just be with whatever is there, even if it's not fun. So that's the unsexy answer, but that's my approach.
Well, it's not immediately when you say like it's okay, I don't have to feel relaxed right now. In my head, I'm like, but I do because when I try to relax, I have to be relaxed now because my kids are going to be home from school, and then I don't get a chance until 9:30 tonight. So I wonder how I could morph that into something appropriate for me, or how people at home could, for those that have other things that takes them away from
Yeah.
relaxation constantly, like constantly. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you feel
So
like
that,
there is a possibility where you could be relaxed even when you are with your kids?
I mean, if it's hard for me without them, I don't know. How do I do it with them? It's like because that's the thing, isn't it? If I was able to relax without them, I wouldn't even need to think about relaxing with them around. They're just so loud.
Right.
And they should be. They're
That's tough.
young, they're
Right.
boys, they're kids. They need to be loud. They need to be energetic and rambunctious. And that's why, like, that's what I schedule that time for. Like, now is the time to be rowdy and rambunctious. By the way, I'm going to go take a 5-minute nap. Like, what? No, that doesn't happen.
Hey there. We hope you're enjoying this episode so far. But if you want to listen to the whole thing, we're going to invite you over to our podcast. Either search for High Vibing It on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you guys listen to podcasts, Or even better, if you want to watch the extended video version of this episode that's even longer than the actual podcast itself, head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/highvibe. Lindsay, tell them what's awesome about the Patreon.
Patreon is where we have all of our extended episodes. As Kelsey said, we have it on video so you can actually see the things that we're talking about. Sometimes we have visual visual aids, and it's nice to know what we're talking about. We also have hangouts that we do sometimes that are exclusive to Patreon people. And you can get started with all of this and bonus content and everything that we have only for the Patreon people for as little as $3. I think it's $3.33 a month. And that's it. And you guys can get all the benefits and all access to everything that we put in there. Really
Yeah.
cool.
It's really cool, really fun, super easy to join. And you guys don't even have to do that to finish this episode. If you're like, screw it, I don't want to pay any money, I just want to hear the rest of this episode, go to our podcast, High Vibe in it, search for it wherever you listen. It's totally free. Either way, enjoy the rest of the show wherever you choose to enjoy it. And we will see you guys next week because we do a new one every week. Adios.
Bye.